All right, so we're diving into Culpa Mía,
Oh, yeah.
or My Fault,
Right.
if you don't speak Spanish.
Yes.
This story,
Mm-hmm.
started on Wattpad,
Yeah.
became this hit book series,
Huge.
and now it's a movie.
It is.
We're not here to just, recap the plot, though.
Right.
We're going to go deeper
Okay.
and look at the main character, Noah,
Yes.
and her journey, but through a female lens.
Very cool.
We've got tons of sources. We've got articles, reviews, even some fan theories.
Wow.
And we're going to unpack what makes Noah tick
Okay.
and how her story speaks to so many young women today.
I think that's a great idea because I think what's so interesting about her is she's not your typical YA heroine.
Yeah.
She's complex.
Right.
She's flawed.
Mm-hmm.
She makes choices that really defy expectations.
Yeah.
And she's a product of her environment.
Right.
Shaped by her challenges.
Okay.
But also just fiercely determined to make her own path.
So let's start with a foundation.
Okay.
Who is Noah?
Right.
Our sources describe her as fiercely independent.
Yes.
Almost guarded.
Mm-hmm.
Where does that come from?
Well, her parents' divorce played a huge role, I think.
Okay.
Imagine growing up with that kind of instability.
Yeah.
That feeling that your world is split in two.
Right.
It's no wonder she learned to rely on herself.
Mm-hmm.
Her relationship with her mom is really strong.
Okay.
But even there, it's about tough love.
Yeah.
Not coddling.
So it's less about being sheltered
Yeah.
and more about being equipped to handle things on her own.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And this independence becomes like a core part of her identity.
Right.
And it affects how she approaches everything.
Yeah.
School, friendships,
Yeah.
especially romantic relationships.
That makes sense. It's
Yeah.
like she's built up all these walls
Yeah.
to protect herself from getting hurt again.
Right. And I think that's something that so many women can relate to.
Yeah.
That fear of vulnerability, of being seen as weak or dependent.
Right.
Noah embodies that struggle, I think, in a really powerful way.
And then her world gets completely shaken up
Oh, yeah.
when her mom remarries, right?
Yes.
She goes from this familiar,
Uh-huh.
if somewhat chaotic life
Right.
to this whole new world of wealth
Mm-hmm.
and rigid rules.
Yes.
How does she handle that?
Not well,
Okay.
at least initially.
Right.
Imagine being plucked from your life
Yeah.
and dropped into this environment where everything feels different.
Right.
The people,
Mm-hmm.
the expectations,
Yeah.
even the way they interact with each other.
Wow.
It's a huge culture shock.
Yeah.
And it intensifies those feelings of being an outsider.
So it's not just about the money.
Right.
It's about feeling out of place.
Yeah,
Like she doesn't belong.
absolutely. And this feeling of displacement, I think, fuels her rebellion.
Okay.
We see it in her tattoos, her risky behavior,
Yeah.
especially her involvement in illegal street racing. These aren't just random acts of teenage angst.
Right.
They're deliberate choices that she makes to assert control over her own life.
That's interesting because on the surface it seems like classic teenage rebellion.
Right.
But you're saying there's a deeper meaning behind it.
Definitely, it's about her pushing back against the constraints of this new life that's been imposed on her. Is her way of saying, I'm not going to be molded into something I'm not.
Yeah.
I'm going to define myself on my own terms.
So it's less about breaking the rules
Yeah,
and more about defining her own rules.
exactly. And this need to define herself also plays out in her relationships,
Right.
particularly with her new stepbrother, Nick.
Ah, yes. Nick.
Yes.
This is where things start to get really complicated.
Oh, yeah.
Because on one hand, she's resisting his authority. But on the other hand, there's this undeniable attraction between them.
And that attraction throws a wrench into everything.
Yeah.
It forces her to confront her own desires, her
Yeah.
own vulnerability, in a way she's never had to before.
Especially because she's been so determined to avoid those kinds of entanglements, right?
Right.
She sees dependence as weakness.
Yeah.
And yet here she is,
Yes.
drawn to this guy who represents everything she's been trying to resist.
It's a classic push-pull dynamic.
Yeah.
She wants to be free,
Right.
but she also craves connection.
Mm-hmm.
She wants to be in control,
Yeah.
but she also yearns to let go.
Right.
And this internal conflict, I think, is at the heart of her journey.
It sounds like being uprooted and thrown into this new family dynamic has really amplified all of Noah's existing issues
Yes.
around vulnerability and control.
Precisely. And it's within this chaotic new reality that her relationship with Nick begins to blossom.
Okay.
So,
That sounds like a recipe for some serious drama.
oh, yeah, for sure.
What happens next?
Well, To understand that, we need to delve deeper into Noah's past,
Okay.
particularly the impact of her father's absence.
So with this background of a broken family,
Yeah.
a strained relationship with her father,
Right.
and now this intense attraction to her stepbrother, Noah is already carrying a lot of baggage.
Exactly. And all of this simmering tension creates the perfect storm for Noah's emotional journey to unfold.
All right, we're getting a clearer picture of who Noah is
Yes.
and the forces that have shaped her.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm dying to know how she navigates this complicated web of relationships,
Right.
especially with Nick.
Yeah.
We'll get into that right after this. So we left off with Noah kind of battling these intense feelings for Nick
Right.
while simultaneously grappling with the ghosts of her past.
Yes.
It sounds like this relationship really pushes her
Uh-huh.
to confront some deep-seated issues.
It's a catalyst for a lot of growth.
Yeah.
But it's definitely not a smooth ride.
Right.
You know, remember, she spent years building up these walls, convinced that vulnerability equals weakness.
Right.
And now here comes Nick,
Yeah.
challenging all those carefully constructed defenses.
That's got to be incredibly unsettling for someone like Noah,
Oh, yeah.
who values her independence so fiercely.
Totally.
How does she even begin to process those feelings?
Well, at first she tries to deny them.
Okay.
She throws herself into her rebellious behavior, pushing Nick away,
Right.
almost as if she's trying to convince herself that she's not interested.
Right.
But the more she resists,
Right.
the more intense those feelings become.
It's that classic forbidden fruit scenario, isn't it?
Totally.
The harder you try to resist something,
Yeah.
more alluring it becomes.
Exactly. And this internal struggle, I think, is reflected in the way she interacts with Nick.
Okay.
Their relationship is a constant push and pull.
Yeah.
Moments of intense connection,
Right.
followed by these abrupt withdrawals.
Wow.
It's a roller coaster of emotions, not just for Noah, but for Nick as well.
That makes sense. It's like she's testing the waters.
Yes.
Trying to figure out if she can trust him.
Right.
If she can trust herself to be vulnerable without getting hurt.
And this is where I think the deeper themes of the story start to emerge.
Noah's journey isn't just about romantic love.
Right.
It's about learning to trust, learning to open herself up to the possibility of connection
Okay.
without sacrificing her sense of self.
So it's about finding that balance
Yes.
between independence and intimacy.
Precisely.
Yeah.
And it's something that I think a lot of women struggle with,
Yeah.
not just in romantic relationships, but in all aspects of their lives.
Right.
You know, we're often told to be strong, to be independent,
Right.
to not need anyone.
Yeah.
But that can lead to a sense of isolation,
Right.
a fear of letting anyone in.
It's like we're taught that vulnerability is a weakness,
Right.
when in reality it's actually a sign of strength.
Totally.
It takes a lot of courage to let someone see your true self, flaws and all.
And that's exactly the lesson that Noah learns, I think, through her relationship with Nick.
Okay.
He sees her, all of her, the good, the bad, the messy,
Yeah.
and he accepts her for who she is.
And that kind of unconditional love is transformative for her.
It's like she's finally given permission to be her authentic self
Yes.
without judgment or expectations.
And in that space of acceptance, she starts to heal.
Okay.
She starts to let go of the pain of her past, the resentment she's held on to for so long. It's not an overnight transformation,
Right.
but gradually we see her walls start to come down.
That's a powerful image.
Yeah.
Those walls that she's built up so carefully, brick by brick over the years,
Right.
finally crumbling away.
They're beautiful.
It speaks to the healing power of genuine connection, doesn't it?
Absolutely. And it's not just about romantic love.
Okay.
We also see her relationships with other characters evolve.
Right.
Her bond with her mother deepens, becoming more about understanding and less about control.
Okay.
She even starts to connect with some members of her new family
Yeah.
in a way she never thought possible.
It's like a ripple effect.
Yes.
By opening herself up to love and vulnerability, she creates a space for those qualities to flourish
Right.
in all areas of her life.
And this transformation is reflected in her choices.
Okay.
She starts to make decisions that prioritize her well-being, her happiness,
Right.
rather than trying to please everyone else
Oh, right.
or prove her independence.
Right.
She learns to set boundaries, to speak her truth,
Okay.
even when it's difficult.
That's a huge step for someone like Noah,
It is.
who's always been so fiercely self-reliant.
Yes.
What triggers this shift in her behavior?
Well, there's a pivotal moment in the story
Okay.
where Noah realizes that her actions particularly her relationship with Nick,
Right.
have had these unintended consequences.
Okay.
She sees the pain she's caused,
Yeah.
not just to herself, but to the people she cares about.
Right.
And that realization, I think, forces her to confront her own culpability, her own role in the drama that's unfolding.
So it's not just about finding love.
Right.
It's about taking responsibility for her choices.
Yeah.
Understanding the impact they have on others.
Exactly. And that's where I think the title, My Fault, takes on a deeper meaning.
Okay.
It's not just a romantic drama.
Right.
It's a story about accountability, about learning from your mistakes,
Yeah.
and about finding the courage to make amends.
That's such a crucial message.
It is.
Especially for young people who are still figuring things out.
Right.
Who are bound to make mistakes along the way.
Exactly.
It's about acknowledging those mistakes.
Yeah.
Owning up to them. And then doing the work to repair the damage.
And that's what makes Noah's journey so inspiring.
Okay.
She doesn't shy away from the consequences of her actions.
Right.
She faces them head on with a willingness to learn and to grow.
Yeah.
And in doing so, she discovers a strength
Okay.
that goes beyond defiance or rebellion.
Right.
It's a quiet strength, a resilience that comes from self-acceptance
Okay.
and a commitment to being a better person.
It's a powerful reminder that true growth often comes from our biggest challenges.
Yes.
From those moments where we're forced to confront our own flaws
Right,
and
right.
make difficult choices.
And it's through these trials that Noah learns to navigate the complexities of life, to find her voice,
Right.
and to embrace her own unique path.
So Noah's journey is a powerful example
Yes.
of how resilience and self-discovery can emerge from even the most challenging circumstances.
Absolutely.
But we know from our sources that her story doesn't end there.
Right.
There's still fallout from her choices, consequences to face,
Yeah,
and a whole lot of messy reality to navigate.
for sure.
We'll explore all of that and more when we return
Yeah.
for the final part of our deep dive into Culpa Mía.
Yeah.
We've seen Noah go through some incredible transformations.
Yeah.
Embracing vulnerability,
Yeah.
finding strength in unexpected places, and ultimately taking responsibility for her actions.
Right.
But even when you try to make things right,
Uh-huh.
there can still be consequences. What happens when the dust settles?
Well, think about the choices Noah has made. Defying expectations, falling for her stepbrother.
Yeah.
These actions create ripples,
Right.
impacting her family, her relationships, her whole world.
Okay.
The stability that she'd started to find gets shaken.
Mm-hmm.
Secrets come to light.
Right.
And she faces some pretty harsh judgments.
So even though she's trying to do the right thing,
Yeah.
it doesn't magically fix everything.
Right?
It sounds like she's hit with a whole new set of challenges.
That's the reality of it, isn't it?
Yeah.
Growth is rarely a straight line.
Right.
There are setbacks, misunderstandings, and sometimes the people you thought you could rely on disappoint you.
Wow.
Noah experiences all of that.
Okay.
But what's crucial is how she responds to these new obstacles.
Does she revert back to her old ways?
Right.
Does she shut down and build those walls back up?
It would be understandable if she did right. But that's not the Noah we see at this point in the story. She's learned that running away doesn't solve anything.
Right.
Instead, she digs deeper, drawing on the strength that she's discovered within herself.
So this time her strength isn't about pushing people away
Right.
or proving her independence.
Exactly.
It's about facing the music,
Yeah.
even when it's painful.
She owns her mistakes, she apologizes where necessary, and she actively works to rebuild trust with those she's hurt.
Okay.
It's a messy process,
Right.
full of emotional ups and downs, but it ultimately leads to a deeper understanding of herself
Yeah.
and the complexities of human relationships.
It sounds like she's learned that vulnerability isn't just about letting people in.
Right.
It's also about holding yourself accountable,
Yeah.
even when it's uncomfortable.
And that's a powerful lesson, isn't it? It's
Yeah.
something that resonates far beyond the pages of a YA novel.
Right.
It's about recognizing that we all make mistakes, but we have the power to choose how we respond to those mistakes.
It's about learning, growing, and becoming a better version of ourselves, even when we stumble along the way.
And Noah's journey reminds us that this process isn't always pretty or straightforward.
Right.
There will be moments of doubt, of anger, of wanting to just give up.
Yeah.
But it's the perseverance, the commitment to showing up and doing the work that ultimately leads to transformation.
So what does this all mean for Noah in the end?
Yeah.
How does her story wrap up?
Well, without giving away too much, let's just say that she finds a way to integrate all the lessons she's learned.
Okay.
She doesn't forget her past,
Right.
but she doesn't let it define her future either.
Mm-hmm.
She finds a balance between independence and connection,
Yeah.
between honoring her own needs and showing compassion for others.
And perhaps most importantly, she embraces the power of forgiveness,
Oh, yeah.
forgiving herself for her mistakes and extending that same grace to those who have wronged her.
It's a powerful message, isn't it?
It is.
It suggests that true strength lies not in being perfect,
Right.
but in embracing our imperfections and learning from our missteps.
And it reminds us that even when things fall apart,
Mm-hmm.
we have the ability to pick up the pieces
Yeah.
and create something new, something stronger and more authentic.
So as we wrap up this deep dive into Culpa Mía and Noah's incredible journey,
Yeah.
we're left with a lot to ponder.
Right.
How have you faced adversity in your own life? What lessons have you learned about resilience, forgiveness, and the power of vulnerability? How has your understanding of these themes evolved over time?
Those are great questions.
We'd love to hear your reflections.
Thanks for joining us.